All right, Georgia with a 41-17 win over the Vols, a big win for Georgia in a game that was, honestly pretty competitive for a while. I mean, for a good game, quarter and a half, and then a turnover from Tennessee, 17-10 for the Dogs. A uh, just beautiful throw from Stetson to James Cook, 23-yard touchdown, 24-10. Game felt over. Georgia didn't close it out coming out of the half, but um, coming right out of the half. They went three and out after a run from Zamir. That was a pretty good run. Felt like they were getting going, but then not too much longer in the third with a field goal. Look, Georgia. This was going to be a challenging game. We talked about it. We thought Georgia would win. This was a game that you had to play well, and they did. 274 yards rushing. The Vols with 55. Not great for Tennessee. That was what cost them the game. Stetson with 213 yards. Stetson can play better, but this was a really good performance from him. I mean, let's just call it what it is, 17 to 29, 213 yards, touchdown. Was sacked twice. Now, that's probably where he could have played a little bit better, but he gained 58 yards rushing. So he wound up with 40 total yards. He was going for 5 yards a carry. That included sacks. Georgia's, I don't, I only show 4 yards of losses running the ball for the Dogs with that don't count sacks. So I mean, this was a performance that you expected. I expected it to be quicker, but the reason why it's tough to play up here is because it's tough to play up here. You've got the sound. Tennessee's better than they were a year ago, I think. Offensively, they are, but it didn't really matter a ton. I mean, when you're throwing the ball 37 times, you're in trouble. That's just too many times. So Hendon Hooker, 244 yards, was sacked 5 times. He still managed 58 yards going forward, but only wound up with 7 because of the sacks. So, and then rushing, it just wasn't there for Tennessee much. I mean, Jabari Small had a little bit of wiggle room, but that he could be a player that played late in the game. But this game was about James Cook and Stetson and the Georgia defense. And it didn't look like Nolan Smith was really severely hurt to me because of what I saw post game. And so I expect Nolan to be available next week. I expect Jordan Davis to be available next week. It looked like everybody, including now I don't know 100% on Devontae Wyatt, but it did look like he would be available too. Winning like this up here is a big deal, whether Tennessee's good or not, and they're not great. It's just what they are. They're not where they used to be, and part of that's because Georgia's where it's at, and you know this defense, you think you're going to trick play them? Okay, you might throw a pick, and that's a real problem. I got people blowing me up here trying to do some work, but this team was very not nervous before the game. They were uh, they were good, and Tennessee scored 10 points. They were smiling. They had fun. You could see before the game they were having fun. When the crowd roared, I saw one time Kirby looked at, oh man, I can't remember which player it was. It was a defender, and it was just like, yeah, they scored, but are y'all having fun? That's what it seemed like, was they were very interested in you know playing this game and having this atmosphere and all that stuff. So it was an exciting game for for Georgia. I mean, to come in here and win the way they did, that's a significant win for the Dogs, and against a team that is getting there. Tennessee's not where they need to be necessarily to really challenge in the league. I think they're 5-5 still, but 8-0 for the first time in the league play, and since that's the first time since '82, so 39 years. There's a couple other things they've not done since that long ago, which is win a national championship. But this is a team that looks like it's sort of settled in on a quarterback. I don't really see how. Um, it's just my take, okay? I think Stetson's played well. I understand what you've got with JT. Just because Stetson's playing well doesn't mean that you can't go with somebody else. But right now, I'm not sure why you would go with somebody else. I mean, Stetson's playing better. Um, this wasn't unbelievable, but the throw to James Cook and ending up 17 of 29, I mean, that's really impressive overall. I have to close this door. It's really overall impressive performance for Stetson, etc. They played well. And this Georgia team, played well and got the W the way that they should have. The other thing too here, y'all, is that no one's just going to give games to Georgia. Like that's not going to happen. Tech, Alabama, or whoever in a few weeks, they're not just going to roll over and die because there's a bunch of guys out there in silver britches or whatever you want to call it. That's not going to happen. And Tennessee wanted to win tonight, and they put together a way to win that was working for the time being. And getting that first score is what you wanted to do because from that point forward, you could really compete, I guess you could say, because that first touchdown gets you deep into the game. They don't take away touchdowns, and that's what happened tonight was when Tennessee scored and then they got the 10. That really helped them a lot stick around in the game. But it was that Stetson throw to James, which I couldn't see it because of where I was. It ran right at me, but you know I couldn't see it, but I think it was a very good throw. And this is not, I mean, I've been waiting for James Cook to have an explosive game for a while because he's explosive, and it can't be surprising that he would have this kind of game at some point. Because when you look at a guy like him, I think it was 14 touches for 147 yards, 3 touchdowns. That's major production. I mean, that's running it. Tennessee could not stop James from the start tonight, and that was where you could see, here comes his game. Because Zamir was not unbelievable, but 12 for 55. James was averaging 10 yards rushing the ball. That's crazy. And then it looks like a little over 11 yards for each reception. So about 10 yards a touch, you get into James Cook, and you're scoring a touchdown every 4 plays or whatever it was that you get it to him. He's a freak, man. And it never seemed like Georgia's defense lost control of anything. It felt like they were not going to permit a run game. Tennessee kept running it. Now, listen, they did try to run it 36 times, and there was a little bit of success here and there. They had a 10-yard run from Jabari Small. They had a 14-yard run from Hooker and an 8-yard run from Jalen Wright. But it wasn't, the 13 from Stetson, 15 from Kenny, 14 from Zamir White, 39 from James Cook. I mean, Georgia was bludgeoning them in the run game. When you wind up with 41 rushes for 274 yards. So globally, I think this was really a good, Georgia needs to be tested. They were tested against Clemson. They tested tonight, I thought, because when you're here, the stadium really just pounds on you here. Sometimes people make too much of it, but what it is that in the corners over there, right down there, and then on the other side, but right down here, the visitor corner and the other side where the Spirit people are for Tennessee, they have sound systems set up. And all the ambient noise, now it's not pointed at the bench, but you can't help but hear it because they're at the end of the bench and they're kind of in the middle. And it's a lot. It's a lot. And, getting out of here with a win at any time you can is great. But trying to explain to folks that are not on the field what it's like on the field when you can hear all of the ambient noise all the time. And the place doesn't shake. It never shook tonight, but I felt it shake here before. And it can really be a tough place to play, but Georgia never lost their cool. They never tried to go too fast. I did think that there were times that Tennessee tried to play too fast tonight. I mean, the interception that Tennessee was having a hard time throwing it on Georgia. I mean, Tillman had 200 yards. That's a lot, but it never felt like during the competitive part of the game that Tennessee was going to break one. They had they when they drove the field the first drive, I was like, wait, man, maybe they're ready to play here, but you got to adjust on Kirby and them, or you're not gonna, because they adjust at the half, during the game, whatever. Kobe Dean's a freaking star. That pass breakup was unbelievable. He had 11 total tackles. Channing Tindall with 8. Lewis Seen should have had a pick on that. Should have had a pick on um, that trick play. Kendrick played well. Had the interception. This is a good Georgia team. I mean, but nobody's just not going to hand you the trophy. Okay, you're going to have to go get it. You're going to have to take it from them. And while you're watching the game, you have to remember that the guy that's leading this program is ready to enforce punishment on the other team at any moment he can. And I think that that's what people like. I mean, when you're down on the field and you can feel the flow of the game, you forget how they've been prepared through the week, during the week. I mean, this Tuesday practice was apparently a very good practice. And, when your most physical practice is a very good practice, you're probably going to play well during the game. The other thing that was interesting tonight was the first time I really saw Georgia players with masks on. I mean, you're outside, so having a mask is not, but they had masks on tonight, a couple of guys, because of a virus that's going through this team. So mask on. Jalen Carter had an issue with the whatever they're dealing with. Warren Erickson, there was someone else, but immediately masks on, slowing the spread of that, because you have some time here. But if you can't, if you prevent yourself from getting sick with vomiting and throwing and diarrhea, that's probably better than the alternative of vomiting and diarrhea. Try to get some guys with IV fluids, and it didn't work out. But they gutted it out. I thought they were going to have to gut this out at some point. As it turns out, they just kind of rolled over Tennessee. But yeah, Georgia's a lot like the Grand Canyon, man. You think that you can slow it down, but it just grinds through the rock, and slowly it makes a canyon. And it's a lot to ask of these teams that can't stick in there with them all the time. And we're going to see the Charleston Southern game is going to be nothing serious there, and then you're going to see the Tech game, which will have more Georgia fans than Tech. I'm calling for the first time in a long time, if ever. And then you've got what looks like Alabama, I guess. But Georgia should win all of those games, and the game with Alabama, if they play them, will be epic. The game with Texas A&M would be epic. I mean, Auburn lost today, so they're out. But it would be, we're at the point in the season where there's only a couple more games, and then it's all or nothing. And Georgia's going to need to get the job done in Atlanta against Alabama and eliminate them probably from the college football playoff. Oklahoma's lost today, bad. Cincinnati, you're welcome. Probably looking like Cincinnati's in. Oregon looking like they're in. And for now, but everybody's got these final games, and you've got to survive them or come on through. But Georgia's not surviving. 41-17 is not survival. That's domination. From Neyland Stadium, we'll see you over on the website, dogpost.com. Dean Legge, we're wrapping it up. Thanks for watching. See you on the website.